Grace and peace to you from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Now I know what many of you are thinking. Those of you who are members of our congregation here, you're thinking you look different today, right? Yeah. In fact, I'm very proud of the way that I look this morning. I've shaved and I'm showered. Teeth are brushed. My nails are all clipped. I've got this nice new haircut. I'm sure every hair is in place. My shoes are polished and shining. I can see my reflection in my shoes this morning. And instead of wearing my usual white alb, I'm wearing this cassock and surplice. I think I look pretty good. Don't you think so? I mean, who are we kidding? I look great this morning. In fact, I looked in the mirror before I came into the sanctuary this morning, and I thought, wow. I mean, it's a shame that People magazine has already come out with their most beautiful issue this year. It's a shame that GQ magazine has already come out with their 10 best dressed men issue. And I don't know what the hip phrase is for praising someone's good looks these days, but whatever it is, that's me. I'm looking pretty good, if I do say so myself. You know what they say, women go crazy for a sharp-dressed man. Yeah, some of you know ZZ Top, huh? But enough about me, though I could talk about, humble me. I could talk about humble me all day. I kind of like the way this cassock and surplice looks. Where was I? Oh, yeah, I was going to say something about you. Now, some of you don't look half bad either this morning. Not nearly as good as me, mind you, but not too shabby. You could use a little work here and there, maybe a little polish. You're looking okay. Just let me know if you need some help. You can come up to me after worship this morning, and I could give you some tips on how to make yourself, more beautiful, more acceptable, more desirable, more like me. I saw some statistics recently. They said that 99% of American women and 94% of American men would change something about their looks if they could. That's not me. No, I'm one of the 6% of men in America that would not change a thing. I mean, you don't change a masterpiece, do you? Would you alter the Mona Lisa? Would you take a chisel to Michelangelo's David? Van Gogh's Starry Night needs no new paint strokes. Changing anything about my looks would only blemish perfection. No, there are no alterations needed here. You see, today I am the ideal. I am the standard. I am the prototype. Oh, yeah, maybe a few little blemishes here and there. Nicked myself shaving last night. But, other than that, looking good. Looking good. Well, there I am talking about myself again. Like I said, I could do that all day. I had meant to talk about you. And no offense here, but you may want to look into some ways, to maybe make your outsides as flawless and faultless, as pretty and perfect as mine. Now, I don't mean to hurt your feelings here. I'm just speaking the truth in love, and the Bible says that I'm supposed to do that, speak the truth in love. So, but don't reach too high, though. Don't reach beyond your grasp. You fly too close to the sun, you know what happens. Yeah, your wings are going to melt. But don't be too disappointed. You'll never look as good, on the outside, as good as me. You might make yourself look a little bit better, but never, never, never as good as this. But there I go again. Enough about me. I want to see what our gospel reading has to say this morning. Maybe it's talking about me. Huh? Mark, chapter 7. He says something like this, beginning in verse 18. Do you not see that whatever goes into a person from the outside cannot defile him? Why? Because it doesn't go into the heart, but into his stomach, and is expelled. And Jesus says, what comes out of a person, that's what defiles him. For from within, out of the heart of man, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, coveting, wickedness, deceit, sensuality, envy, slander, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within, and they defile a person. You know, I can see myself pretty good with this mirror right here. I can see what's on the outside, but it doesn't show me what is within, what's on the inside, what's in my heart. I mean, how do I know what's there? I wish I had a mirror to show me what's inside. From within, out of the heart of man, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, coveting, wickedness, deceit, sensuality, envy, slander, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within, from inside. They defile a person. I wonder who Jesus was talking about there. I wonder. Let's see if we can figure that out. I'm going to go back just a little ways, see what the context is, just a few verses before our text. Verse 1, as a matter of fact, of chapter 7, it's going to tell us who he's talking to. It's got to be those Pharisees, those evil, wicked Pharisees. That's who he's pointing the finger at, right? And there it is. Chapter 7, verse 1. Now when the Pharisees gathered to him with some of the scribes who had come from Jerusalem, they saw that some of his disciples ate with hands that were defiled. That is, they were unwashed. The Pharisees and all the Jews don't eat unless they wash their hands, holding to the tradition of the elders. And when they come from the marketplace, they don't eat unless they wash. There it is. The Pharisees and some teachers of the law. That's who he's talking to. He calls them what? He calls them hypocrites. And Jesus, he had gotten into a tussle with them before, a little earlier in Mark's gospel, in chapter 2 of the gospel. It's a Sabbath day. Jesus and his disciples are walking through the grain fields. The disciples are hungry. They reach down and grab some of the grain and begin to eat. And the Pharisees say then, look, Jesus, why are your disciples doing what's unlawful on the Sabbath? And Jesus said to him at that time, he said, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Go get them, Jesus, these hypocrites. If there's anybody who looks good on the outside, it was the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. Those guys were super dedicated to ritual cleanliness. They followed all of those rules and regulations in the Old Testament. In fact, they even added to it. They added the tradition of the elders. They sure looked clean. They looked great on the outside. But it must be their inside, their hearts, that Jesus is calling evil. Jesus is right, isn't he? They're just a bunch of hypocrites. So he talks directly to them all the way through verse 13. And then we come to verse 14, the beginning of our text that was read earlier. And it says that Jesus called the people to him. He called the crowd to him. He began to speak to them. So he moves from the Pharisees to the crowd. Now, who is the crowd? Well, I know who the crowd is. The crowd is other people It's other people. It's not me. I'm not a Pharisee. I'm not the crowd. So again, Jesus isn't talking to me. Then Jesus, he goes into the house, and his disciples ask him about what's going on here. They don't seem to quite get it. He's been talking to the Pharisees, to the crowd, and they say, Jesus, we just don't get it. We don't quite understand what you've been saying here. Could you put it into some plain language for us? So that's what I'm going to do this morning, put Jesus' words into some plain language. Jesus says, don't you see that what you swallow can't contaminate you? It doesn't enter your heart, but your stomach, works its way through the intestines and is finally flushed. He went on, it's what comes out of a person that pollutes: obscenities, lusts, thefts, murders, adulteries, greed, depravity, deceptive dealings, carousing, mean looks, slander, arrogance, foolishness. All these are vomit from the heart. There is the source of your pollution. Pharisees, crowd, and disciples who just don't get it. Surely Jesus is going to get around to praising people like me who do get it. I mean, look at how great I look this morning. Look at how great I look on the outside. I am not unclean, and surely my inside is just as beautiful. There's this intelligent young man, early 30s. This young man did everything right. He made a plan early in his life, and he stuck to it. He went to graduate school, got his MBA, accepted a job offer, and he went to work, and he worked hard. First in, last one out. Little to no social life. When his friends invited him to have a drink after work on Fridays, he said, no thanks, I'm going to the gym. He had a plan, and he was sticking to it. Work real hard, move up the ladder, save, down payment on a house in year 4, wife at year 5 or 6, new car, nothing too fancy at year 7, and then after that, kids, a boy and a girl. Well, year 7, in his plan came along. Life was great. He was doing well. It was time to buy that new car. So he went down to the dealer and he drove home in his brand new shiny BMW 5 Series. Who needs kids, right? This is my baby. And that's how he treated it. Instead of the gym on Friday afternoons, it was the car wash, and then the vacuum and a new coat of polish every week, like clockwork. Wash, vacuum, polish. He took such great care of that car. The shine on the outside of that car was blinding. Then he began to notice, after about a year of owning and driving the car, that it didn't seem to be running quite as well as it did when he first got it. It didn't have that same pep, that same get up and go to it. It smoked, a little bit. And he heard this occasional knocking, seemed to be coming from under the hood. But it still looked great on the outside. It looked fantastic in the employee parking lot. He had his own space by now, by the way, and had his name on his space, and that car looked fantastic sitting there. Eventually, the car got so bad that he had to take it in to the dealer and have it looked at. After about an hour, the service manager comes out and he calls him back to his office and he says, have you been taking care of this car? Well, yeah. I mean, of course I have. I wash it, I vacuum it, and I polish it every week. I take great care of this car. What's wrong with it? Well, I've got some good news, and I've got some bad news for you. That car does. It looks fantastic. It looks great on the outside, but the inside, that's the problem. Wait a minute, I vacuum the inside every week. No, I'm not talking about the cabin. I'm talking about the engine, the inside, the heart of the car. I mean, didn't they tell you when you bought the car to bring it in regularly for a service? Well, yeah, they did, but I do all of that myself. I wash, I vacuum, and I wax it every single week. And you've done a great job with that, by the way. The car looks great, it looks fantastic, but you can't just polish the car. The inside, the engine, the heart of the car needs much more attention than that. Don't just polish the car, change the oil. Don't just polish the car. You got to change the oil. Jesus said to his disciples, wait a minute, I'm a disciple of Jesus. He is talking about me. What comes out of a person, that's what defiles him. From within, out of the heart of man, out of my heart, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, coveting, wickedness, deceit, sensuality, envy, slander, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within. They defile a person. That sounds like me. I've been washing and vacuuming and waxing every week. The outside looks great, fantastic. The inside, the heart, evil thoughts, greed, malice, deceit, envy, slander, arrogance, foolishness. The condition of the heart, that's what's critical. How's yours? When someone barks at you, do you bark back or you bite your tongue? That depends on the state of your heart. Mine's dirty. When you're offered a morsel of gossip marinated in slander, do you turn it down or do you pass it on? That depends on the state of your heart. Mine's dirty. When your schedule is too tight or your to-do list too long, do you lose your cool or do you keep it? That depends on the state of your heart. Mine's dirty. When I could go on and on and on and on. The condition of the heart, that's what's critical. The condition of the heart dictates what comes out of a person. If the heart is dirty, well, what comes out is not going to be pretty. Evil thoughts, greed, malice, deceit, envy, slander, arrogance, foolishness. So what am I then? I mean, what are we to do about this? We can't change the inside by washing and waxing the outside. That's not going to do anything with it. The problem is not the outside. The problem is the heart. The problem is my dirty, thorny heart. What's the answer to that? I can't find that answer in myself. I can't make my heart clean. What am I to do? I'm going to look in the mirror again. And there I can read in Psalm 51, and I can pray this prayer of David. Create in me a clean heart, O God. Not me, I can't do it. God, create in me a clean heart. renew a right spirit within me. And in his grace and mercy, that is what God promises to do. God promises to give me that, to give me a new heart, a clean heart, a perfect heart, the heart of Jesus. Jesus' heart never knew the fruits of sin. The evil thoughts, the greed, the malice, the deceit, the envy, the slander, the arrogance, the foolishness. Jesus never knew that until he became sin for us. A late night arrest and trial, early morning beating and mocking, a noonday crucifixion. You see Jesus in all of his glory and splendor on the cross. There, sin tumbled in upon him. My sin, your sin, the sin of the whole world, the evil of my thorny heart and yours pierced him there. I mean, can't you hear the emotion in his prayer from the cross? My God, why have you forsaken me? Dear friends, those aren't the words of a saint. This is the cry of a sinner. And he hung there as the guilty verdict, the verdict that you and I deserve, was pronounced upon him. And that is one of the most remarkable things. One of the most remarkable things of Jesus' obedience to the Father's plan. But I can think of something even greater. I can think of something even greater than that. You want to know what the coolest thing about Jesus is coming to this rebellious earth is? I mean, this earth that's filled with Pharisees and hypocrites like me. It's not that he kept his cool while his best friends felt the heat and got out of the kitchen. Not that he gave no command to the angels who begged him, just give us the nod, Lord. One word and these demons will be deviled eggs. Not that he refused to defend himself when blamed for every sin of every slut and sailor since Adam, or that he stood silent as a million guilty verdicts echoed in the tribunal of heaven, and the giver of light was left in sinner's night. Not even that. Not even that after 3 days in a dark hole, he stepped into the Easter sunrise with a smile and a swagger and a question for lowly Lucifer, is that the best you got? All of that was cool. Immensely cool, incredibly cool. But I want you to know this morning the coolest thing about the one who gave up the throne and the crown of heaven for a crown of thorns. And the coolest thing is this. He did that for you. He did all of that just for you. Amen. Let's stand and sing, shall we?